How do you show up online when it feels like you're still just trying to figure it out? We see all of these polished brands online, people who look like they're completely clear on what it is that they're building, and then you're over here fighting major internal resistance every single content piece that you're posting because you're wondering, who am I? I understand this dilemma very well because that is what prevented me from launching this YouTube channel for the past 2 years because I was way too scared to go public when I did not know how little old me could possibly stand out and carve a space for myself in a highly competitive niche. But this is not actually my first business. And if I learned anything from playing the competitive online entrepreneur game for the last 6 years, having built an e-com business that went on to do 7 figures in sales, is that if you're figuring it out, well, that's a good thing because it means that you care. And the key that we just need to find out is what is the best way for you, in particular, to win. What is the brand that you are meant to own? By the ways, this video is going to be a part of my Build Your Magnetic Brand series where I spent thousands of hours, so you don't have to, analyzing thousands of content creators and business owners to figure out how to create a magnetic power player brand in today's Me Too economy. Don't forget to subscribe if you want to get notified every time a new episode launches. So the first thing I discovered is that you need to think of building a brand as something far more complex and nuanced than simply the 3 tips on branding that you got from an Instagram post. Figure out your niche statement, figure out your slogan, your font, your brand colors, and make sure you understand your target audience. Because in my opinion, I believe it is far more than that. Because those things are surface level tactics, and it's actually quite easy for someone to quickly replicate. Seriously, any Joe Blow can now use ChatGPT AI to kind of come up with their brand profile, which defeats the purpose of why someone would want to build a brand in the first place. That leads me to my second point, is that if you're serious about figuring out your brand, then you need to have a certain particular question at the forefront of your mind, guiding your antennas. That question is, what can I do, build, or focus on that's gonna make it really hard for someone else to replicate me? To showcase an example of what I mean that building a brand is about making yourself hard to replicate, let's take a look at the billion-dollar battle of the energy drinks. Monster versus Red Bull. Both of these brands are industry-leading titans of the energy drink space. But the thing to pay attention to is that each of these brands are playing their own game. They're staying in their own lane and building their own unique leverages. They're not blindly following the cookie cutter 3 tips on Instagram post to build your brand. They're deeply thinking about their individual strategy and then executing on that strategy better than anyone else. So let's break down Red Bull's strategy first. On the surface branding level, their slogan is Red Bull gives you wings. Their identity is that aspirational achiever, the person pushing the limits of human potential and peak performance, the world-class Formula One driver, the professional snowboarder at the top of their game. And Red Bull is promising them wings to take them to the top. The feeling that they're giving is prestige. And their packaging shows this exclusivity. Their cans are slim with a premium European design, and they also go after premium pricing. Smaller bottle and a higher price. Now let's go to Monster. They too own significant market share in the energy drink space, where Red Bull's surface level branding goes after precision, calculated perfection, and prestige. Monster decided they're gonna go the other way, raw, rebellious outlaw energy, and they want to appeal to the everyday man. And we can see this difference in branding with just their packaging choices. But like I said, branding goes beyond what is the identity you're going for or the colors you want, because those are easily replicable. And like what I mentioned, if you really want to build a true brand, it's about making yourself hard to copy. And what cannot be easily ripped off is what is someone able to actually get done. So for example, We talked about the surface level branding strategy of Red Bull, but let's go a little bit deeper into their marketing strategy. Red Bull has made the strategic decision to go after spending more time and resources into building their media and event empire. They're not just sponsoring events, they're owning the events. Red Bull Rampage, Red Bull Cliff Diving World Series. And because they spend a lot of resources on creating this events and media empire, what this naturally starts to create in our minds as the consumer is that we do start to associate Red Bull with a more premium positioning, because their strategy is actually backing up what they said their brand is going to be about. Now let's go back to Monster and see their under the surface marketing strategy. And so Monster saw that while Red Bull is going after premium exclusive energy, spending more resources building their premium brand positioning via the media and event empire, and just focusing in on one flavor, Monster was like, I'm going to go in the other direction. Boots on the ground. I'm going to go mass distribution, appeal to more people, and kind of move away from this exclusive energy. So they start spending more money and resources developing more flavors. 34 flavor variations versus Red Bull's just one. Their strategy was, while Red Bull is busy building their premium brand association, I am just going to make sure that I'm visually everywhere by ensuring I'm dominating the retail shelf space. More flavors means that I can take up more space in the supermarkets. So let's take a step back. We can see two separate strategies, but is one better than the other? No, because they're both owning significant market share in the energy drink space. So I would say both are winning. Red Bull owns spectacle, prestige, exclusivity, and their strategy backs it up. What they're doing backs it up, making it hard for someone to replicate their same game. And Monster decided to go for appealing to the everyday man, going after diversification, saturation, two completely different strategies, but it allows them to play in the same arena together. So why do I bring up this battle? Because what we can learn is that incredible success from both of these brands prove that building a brand is not cookie cutter. It's not the 3 tips that you got from an Instagram post. But instead, it is about figuring out what is the unique game that only you can play. And are you willing to play that game better than anyone else? So how do we apply this? If you watched my previous video, I talked about the 12 creator business archetype brand energies. 9 energies with 3 style overlays that one can mix and match to create their own signature blend. But the important thing is that each of these brand energies are associated with different skill stacks one needs to develop if they really want to own that brand energy. Similar to how Red Bull, going after a premium positioning, they had to develop a certain leverage, go after a certain strategy, go after a certain skill to be able to pull it off. Because like I mentioned earlier, it's easy to declare you're going after a certain branding, but the question is, can you prove it? Are you just the person dreaming of that brand, or are you the doer manifesting that brand? And that's why 2 people can declare they want to be, let's say, the visionary brand archetype. These are like the Tony Robbins, people who share motivational messages, inspiring people, sharing their ideas with the world, but only one breaks through. And it's because the one that breaks through understands the skill stacks needed to actually successfully pull off a visionary brand archetype. And they focus and practice on it day in and day out so they can execute it better than anyone else. A brand becomes a brand when the person in charge of building the brand is willing to push themselves to actually acquire the skills and the leverages needed to bring that brand to life. So let's bring this back to, if you're someone who you're still trying to figure out your brand, what should you do? Because there's quite a lot of common misconceptions that I see online, like just share your story, be yourself, be consistent. But why is it that there's some people who are doing those things, but they're still not working? Typically, people who struggle the most with figuring out their brand and figuring out their leverages is that they typically fall into the learner archetype brand energy. Someone who's just documenting their journey, a few steps ahead, sharing their tips. Now, I'm always giving you guys the real, the reality of the situation, because I feel that the right people will find it helpful in the long run. The brutal reality of someone starting off being in this learner archetype role is that the barrier of entry is oftentimes low, meaning that if all it takes for you to get started is for you to just start documenting your journey or just sharing your tips online, then well, what is stopping the next 100 people from also doing that? And so this creates a situation where there's a lot of Me Too's and a lot of lookalikes, and it starts to get hard to stay memorable. However, it doesn't mean that one cannot succeed if you're going in or starting from this archetype energy, because there's still a lot of success stories. So let's figure out, why did they become success stories despite being in a more competitive brand archetype energy? The first way to start putting some distance between yourself and the other people who are just picking up their camera and starting to share their tips, journey, ideas, is you need to ensure that your content experience has a unique value proposition. Essentially, what this means is, what is the reason you're giving someone to tune into you versus another channel? I talk more about the unique value proposition in my video 2. After this, you'll rethink your content pillars. I'll put the link down below. But one of the additional ways that I didn't talk about in that video of how to find your unique value proposition is that you can combine your learner brand archetype energy with another brand archetype energy and start developing the skills associated with that other brand archetype energy. Because this is going to start putting some distance between you and other people. So for example, if I'm hearing the common advice is just pick up the camera and just start sharing your tips, like how to be more healthy, drink more water. Tip 2, eat your avocados. Then I'm going to start to see, that format or that advice is getting very saturated, aka it's becoming everywhere. And essentially it's a bit easier to do, right? So I'm going to be starting to look at, are there certain formats or are there certain styles that is hard for someone to replicate because it requires them to actually develop skills, be focused and disciplined in developing those skills. So to give an example of this in the real life, let's take Emma Chamberlain. She is a massive Gen Z icon, becoming a Louis Vuitton ambassador, a Vogue correspondent, and she's hanging with all of the A-list celebrities. Time magazine even named her one of the internet's 25 most influential people. But where did she come from? Some of us are like, she was born in a celebrity family. But you'd be wrong, because that's not the case. She was a regular girl next door, like most of us. But why was she the chosen one to be the it girl of her generation? Believe it or not, her content creator journey started with her just wanting to share her journey of finding her passion. Classic learner archetype brand energy. But like I mentioned before, this is a pretty saturated niche. Documenting your journey? I mean, come on. A lot of people think, well, it's because she was absolutely unfiltered and raw. Yes and no. Because also, a lot of people who are documenting their journey also try to be unfiltered and raw. So why does she stand out? Whether she was aware of it or not, she was developing one of the other archetype energies. Her secret sauce became the skill set associated with that of the tastemaker. Now, a tastemaker brand archetype is someone who's seen almost like a trendsetter. You feel as if almost they have natural intuition of what good taste is. But let's figure out, how did Emma Chamberlain own the tastemaker brand energy? At the time, she spearheaded a signature, unique editing style that we see characterize Gen Z culture today. It is that lo-fi, tons of jump cuts, zoom heavy, combined with deadpan, self-deprecating humor, and it was put together in a way that just felt right. And if you're familiar with Gen Z culture, this type of editing style, this type of delivery is very prevalent in that generation. Like, if you know, you know. But if you don't know, that's not the point. The reason why I'm bringing up this signature style, for instance, like what I mentioned, each of the archetype energies has certain skill sets associated with it. If you're going the tastemaker archetype energy and you're going after a certain taste, again, in this case, the editing style, there's a certain technical skill associated with being able to pull that editing style off and to pull that type of delivery off and to be able to put it all together. You're either someone who's been practicing on this, analyzing, getting better at just pulling off this aesthetic. And what this creates is a certain experience and a certain vibe. And it makes it hard for someone else to really replicate if they do not have the technical editing skills or the natural intuition of this taste. And so therefore, because Emma Chamberlain was focusing in on developing these skill sets, her signature taste, she owns that energy, making it hard for someone else to really copy her and not come across as another wannabe copycat. So how does this tie back in? Recall what we mentioned, that if you really want to build a brand is about making sure that you're differentiated and competitive. And so making sure that you're really hard to replicate. So if you really want to start differentiating yourself, you're going to need to look at what are some skill sets that I can start developing that's going to make it hard for someone to easily replicate me. Is it your sense of taste making? How you execute, how you put together an aesthetic or a vibe? If you're going after the visionary archetype, maybe you're improving how you're storytelling. You're developing your very signature storytelling ability. If you're going after this scholar brand archetype, you are really honing in on the ability of learning how to research, digest, and translate information for other people. All of these skill sets, it may sound easy, me just saying it, but it takes time for someone to actually execute that well. Now, another strategy for someone who's in the learner brand archetype, like let's say you really just want to own the learner brand archetype. Again, there's people who win by really owning the learner brand archetype. Then going back, the question in your mind needs to be, how can I be the best learner there is? So people typically follow the learner because they're really following the person on the journey. That's the shtick. That's the unique value proposition, what you bring to the table. Now, if your journey is slow, nothing is happening because you're too scared to make big moves, then what is your value proposition exactly? And so that brings me to, if you really want to own the learner archetype, then you better be, excuse my language, hauling ass to learn. I notice that people who really succeed with the learner brand archetype energy, they are action takers. They're not always struggling in analysis paralysis, scared to make decisions, scared to test things out. These people, they're not scared to fail. They will document it. They're willing to play it big. Because the thing is, if your content strategy is people tuning into you because of your journey, then, well, you better be a fantastic main character. Because who is going to watch a film where the main character is barely doing anything? To give an example of someone who I feel owns main character vibes is Vanessa Lau. For those who don't know, Vanessa Lau's resume includes building a multi-million-dollar business in the online marketing space, helping creators grow their business using social media. Now, she started in the classic learner position, documenting her journey. She started with showcasing her quitting her corporate 9-to-5, sharing tips about that. She's always been the one sharing her tips while she's a few steps ahead. But the reason why they don't feel cookie cutter or she just feels like another person trying to post content online is because she is a dang good main character. The one thing I've always admired about Vanessa Lau and her journey is that she is willing to take big big action. When she wants to quit her 9 to 5, she does that. When she's posting content online and doesn't know what she's doing, well, she's taking aggressive action in testing things out. When something is working, like her topic of Instagram, she's immediately doubling down on that and building a business. When she is exhausted by the business that she's built, she burns it down and goes on a sabbatical. And when she wants to launch a product-based business, she is doing that. Within the span of 7 years, she's had so many chapters to her story. Some people are 5 years in and still figuring out what it is they want to do in their lives. So if you're someone who you want your content experience to really have the shtick of like, come along my journey, see me document my stuff, being the reflector archetype, then you need to take action. Vanessa Lau can own that brand archetype energy because her strategy, what she's actually doing, it supports that brand energy. But if she's someone who's 7 years in, still figuring out what's her niche, will she be interesting to watch? There'd be nothing for us to learn from her journey. So if you want to be someone who's documenting your journey and wanting other people to learn from it, then you need to fully throw yourself into every decision you make, fully executing on it, giving it all you got so that you can really actually get real learnings from it that other people cannot. And that's why people follow Vanessa Lau. Whether she realizes it or not, her speed of execution is truly her unique value proposition. So let's recap what you can start doing today. If you want to go after the skill stacking route like Emma Chamberlain did, then you need to focus in on developing a hard to copy skill lever. That could be a taste or an editing style that differentiates your viewing experience. It could be the research depth and the ability to actually put together information into a compelling video based on that. Or it could be you pushing yourself on your delivery, how you share your tips, how you share your stories, your signature pacing, your sequencing, your energy, how you're able to move people with your words. Or if you want to truly just be the best main character, then maybe it's about developing your mindset and your internal capacity, regulating your nervous system so that you can move forward faster than most other people. So what you're going to do is you're going to need to choose one and commit to training that skill lever for the next 30 days. That means committing yourself to actually practicing that and putting out content and then getting feedback from the results that will help you develop those skills even further. Now, if you want even more deeper, micro-nuanced strategies about how to pull off a certain brand archetype energy, I'm releasing bonus episodes only to people on my newsletter. So if you're not signed up yet, why? Click the link down below. Now, if you're someone who you've been putting yourself out there, but you're not getting the results or the traction that you want, maybe you've plateaued or things are just really not working, but you're serious about getting yourself out of the dip, it can very much be that you just do not have a good brand and content strategy. And that's why this video is sponsored by me. Click the link down below because for as long as I have capacity, I will be working personally with people who want to carve out a space in their niche that they can own. So let's go back to the original question. How do you brand yourself when you're still just trying to figure it out? This question implies a few things if you're not careful, because it could lead you down the path of just simply figuring out your niche statement, your I help blank with blank, figuring out your brand colors, your font. And even though it sounds right, figuring out the target avatar you're going for, it's still not really enough. Because to build a real brand is not about cookie cutter tactics or something that's easy to implement because someone can just go on ChatGPT to whip it up. It requires you to realize that truly building a brand that's hard to replicate is far more than that and requires you to build the skill sets necessary to really bring a brand energy to life. Red Bull and Monster both became industry-leading titans, not because they were following the same playbook, or not because they had distinguishable packaging and was targeting different demographics. There's probably other players who also was trying to target the same audiences too. What makes these businesses own that brand is because of what they're willing to get done and whether or not they're the best implementers of that strategy. So the real question is, what is a unique game that only you can play, that you can own? What is a game that you know you're gonna push yourself better than anyone else? So I'm gonna leave with something for us to marinate about, and that is, if you're posting content out right now and you're not seeing any traction, maybe it's time to take a step back. Stop focusing on quantity and focus on quality. Now, quality is not one size fits all. Like I mentioned, quality depends on what is the skill leverages you're building. How can you make your content unique, different, hard for someone else to do? And that's what I'm planning on doing for my own videos. For me, as a small channel, I know that my brand optics are not there yet. And so I know that if I want to compete against someone who they already have the numbers, they already have the leverages in my niche, then I need to really bring my own game. And I cannot do that if I'm just mindlessly pumping out content to hit a quantity metric. Because the internet doesn't need more content. The internet needs signals from the noises. And so for me, what that means is that I'm always pushing myself on my knowledge in my niche. I'm also pushing myself on my on-screen camera presence, how I put my videos together. If you were to watch my very first video on this channel, when I take a look at it, I'm like, wow, I feel like I have grown so much as a creator because I really do try to really bring it and push myself each and every video to try to develop new skill sets that's gonna bring the brand energy that I want to bring to life. And by doing that, I'm pretty confident that it'll be really hard for someone to replicate me because no one else is focusing on the exact skill stacks that I'm focusing on. No one else is obsessing over the particular combination of strategies that I plan to focus on. And so that makes it so that I feel confident now to show up online. Now, if you're someone who you want to know, what are some skill sets that I should be developing? What are some brand energies that I should be working towards? Check my previous video out where I go through all 12 of them.